sod it. We'll go and start now. We'll go with it. Okay. Happy Friday. Anyway, the news on the card at the moment, two things that have come through. Those of you who have looked at the discussion group as such has come out. What came out just a minute ago, obviously from Live Score, was obviously the Ukraine and Russia spat that came out yesterday. And the US have said they may being a very weird word because we say a lot. I may win the World Cup or I may win the FA Cup, whatever. Doesn't say a lot. But the US may send warships to the Black Sea. That obviously was reiterated yesterday. That came out, and one of the reasons when it came out, I forget who it was, one of the discussion group, and a lot of you did the right thing, was buy gold. Gold was up $15 yesterday. So I think in theory, if you get more of that news that comes out, before the end of today, people will probably take gold home for the weekend. And I think people get a bit mixed up saying, "Oh, if Russia, if US goes to the Ukraine or to the Black Sea, whatever, that's bad for indices." It will be in the end. However, if you're long indices, which you are, and there's no reason why not to be at the moment, yeah, you have your hedge. Your hedge will be to buy gold. So obviously, if Wall Street came off Monday 3%, gold will probably be up 3%. So it's a perfect hedge there. So and if people don't believe me, I can remind you very much what happened in 9/11. Obviously, when New York was attacked, the second plane that went into the World Trade Center, the indices actually went up. Gold actually got hit, and gold what got hit was bought rather and went up. So you should know that from most people in there, and told most people in that what to do during sort of terrorist attack or a skirmish, and that's could be going on for years. And we are probably due another one because we haven't had one for about 10 years. The other thing is that Japan adds Tokyo to the COVID curfew. That's come out. That's probably all worrying news. And obviously, Merkel meets with the Berlin Council on Monday. Even though they've increased the lockdown and the curfew in Berlin, more and more and more people are currently going down with COVID. So that's keep your eyes on over the weekend, and probably why the DAX has probably been fairly muted all week. Uh, Obviously, Powell was speaking yesterday, and obviously he's keeping to the same hymn sheet. He played down the inflation. He vows to restore the economy as such, and daily spoke as well yesterday, and he is quite happy with inflation to tick up. Obviously, with Powell's speech being very dovish, all the Fed speakers yesterday were all dovish daily. Bullard, Powell, and I forget the Kaskari. Obviously, the US yields seem to be find their lid at 1.76 and currently are below 1.7. Bullard's comment yesterday, I think, is one to take home for the weekend. What did he say? Fed should not even discuss changes in monetary policy until it's clear the pandemic is over. I think if we go ahead with that, you can fairly see why people have come in and started to buy the market this week on the grounds that the pandemic's over. I don't think. Are they saying that the US, most of the people should get their first vaccines by July the 4th in the US? So basically, 12 weeks on from that, you may think that's the end, where it could come in. The only fly in the ointment to that is something that James Fay, who works for Archer, sends a lot of stuff on our discussion group. There was a big options play yesterday. Kasky, who's our options guru at the moment, they did a 40 million options trade yesterday on the VIX, where they expect obviously there to be volatility in the stock market. They bought the VIX calls, the 25 calls, the 40 call spread, traded over 200,000 lots yesterday. So basically, they're expecting over a period of time. I think it's between May and August. It does bring into the added sell in May, go away, buy back St. Ledger Day. St. Ledger Day, the famous horse race, which is the last day in August. So he's put that spread. I don't think, as James thought, that he expects the market to tumble. He's probably very long stocks, and he's probably using it as a hedge. But it does sound quite a big position to have on paying your premium of $40 million. Does sound fairly steep. But obviously bear that in mind. Obviously, China PPI was out earlier this morning, and it was slightly higher than expected. However, the CPI was slightly lower. So that sort of negates each other. 130 today. The only real figure we have today is obviously PPI, which is obviously an inflation figure. And as Bullard said, and all the other Fed members, they want inflation higher. So again, that negates. That is the only figure we have that today. So it could be a very, very, very quiet Friday. AstraZeneca vaccine is hurting the cable at the moment. Why? Australia, the Philippines, Africa, and Hong Kong they haven't refused to take it on, but they're saying they're going to wait and see. Obviously, that hit sterling yesterday, and again, that probably pushed a FTSE slightly higher. Again, for the market that's going on this US, the one is to work out today, sorry about that, is what's going on. We mentioned it yesterday, the EU Reconstruction Fund. That will be in the headlines and probably be in the headlines over the weekend again today. There's a current spat going on that the lender of last resort in Europe is a country called Germany. Now, the 27 other countries want to borrow more money, go more into debt, which is the current thing of all the central banks. Germany, especially the Bundestag, are slightly against it because they know if people don't repay it, the lender of last resort goes back to Germany. So keep your eyes on that, because if it doesn't get passed, and I think it's Schneibel speaking today, he said that could be fairly disastrous for Europe as such. So that's keep your eye on. And in a way, I think someone else said this morning, that's probably why this week we've had a sort of a weird hedge in that FTSE seems to be going up as the DAX seems to be going down. Could be famous last words, I say that, but when every morning when we come in, pardon me, and we look for a scalp on the opening, it tends to be a positive for FTSE and a negative for the DAX. Again, coming into 8 o'clock now, what am I going to look at? I think I'll look at the DAX again today to see what I really want to trade. But obviously, I think viewers might look at their FTSE as such. Either way, again, I think a lot of people are realizing that the market is tighter. So rather than be over positive and say, I'm looking for 80, 90 ticks in the DAX, I think for a scalp this morning on the opening, probably the DAX 2036 will be enough. And the FTSE, actually, the FTSE and DAX are probably percentage-wise roughly the same, but at the moment in opposite directions as such. The other thing which quite a few people knew yesterday, which is fairly pleasant, remember quite a few of you send your trading journals over. There's a lot yesterday writing down. There was no reason to trade. We said that all along this week. It does sound fairly negative for us to sort of discourage you from trading, but if there is nothing there, we shouldn't be trading. Again, we could wait and see in price action what comes out, and I think basically when we've got to wait till 1:30 for any news to come out, I think the first half hour or 40 minutes this morning from 8 probably to 8:45, that will be it for the morning. So it will be probably your best opportunity of the morning to trade. But again, we wait and see for the price action to come in. You know, a lot of people at the moment have this the habit, which we always have, of the boredom trade. The boredom trade 9 times out of 10 is when you preempt a market where you think it's going to go. 9 times out of 10 of your boredom trades equals one thing in common: a loss. So again, you should know our comments from Friday. The last thing you want to do is have a shitty Friday because you've got to wait 2 days to make your money back. And if you look at the calendar next week, the quietest day next week, figures wise, is Monday. So again, if you've got a quiet time at the moment, have a look and see where we are. But it's a busy retail sales, GDP, quite a lot out next week, and obviously the earnings figures. So we'll come back to there. I'm looking at a DAX here, and I think it'll be fairly whippy, but we'll wait and see. I'll have a quick look at here, and I'll keep quiet. George, you're going to do the FTSE, aren't you? Yeah, so half on FTSE. I'm going to have a quick look on...
Straight through the point of control. Obviously, yeah, and then stop that. Fell off a cliff.
The game is fully seen. So I'll have a quick look at the FTSE. I'm looking at DAX and trading.
Cool,
FTSE was fairly severe. I mean, did anyone manage? I can mute you, Jules. Did anyone manage to get short FTSE?
Yeah, I got them short at the moment.
Well, I think that was the one to trade. Again, I said that's where we wait for the price action, and it's come in. And then I said the issue is on the obviously here. I'm not sure how on what we read out earlier on, that AstraZeneca vaccine being sort of halted in Australia, Philippines, Africa, and Hong Kong. In theory, could be bad for the FTSE. And again, straight from the open here. What's that FTSE on here? What we're saying here, 20 ticks. A decent scalp. I'm having a quick look in the DAX, and I think the DAX was probably almost the same as well, really. Yeah.
DAX was swinging about all over the place. So
DAX is bringing about. Agreed there, Charlie, and I think, as I said, I think Matt said the easier one was probably the FTSE, and the other one, let's get it right. The US spat sending rumors to send the US Theodore Roosevelt US carrier into the Black Sea. A lot of people got on that buying gold. Gold was up $15. I'm still long gold from yesterday, and I want to try and keep that into the weekend if I can. But again, as I said, again, those of you who are new to scalping, that was a very obvious on the price action sell on both. And obviously, the people on the opening are probably taking some money off the table, definitely in the FTSE. But again, Matt, I mean, how far are you going to run your scalp?
Oh, I took 15 ticks and I'm happy out. I already closed out.
Well, I think it's right. I mean, that's the interesting thing where, people turn around when the market is busy. And the next week, the market does pick up a lot. That 15 ticks will be 30 ticks. And I think it's really hard when people turn around to you, how long is your scalp? And the one thing I was chatting to Bianca, she's probably asleep, not in too early. What she was doing, and in a way, quite a few of you could think about. She sometimes in the morning, when we say we do multiples, loads of you are saying learning how to do multiples that helps you to dilute your trade and to move your stop accordingly. She does. She will put a trade on like today. She would have gone short on the trade in the FTSE there, and short on the scalp. And very much like Matt, she would have taken probably 15 ticks off the table, but her other ones she would have run. Yeah, and she'd probably still be short. And this is the other thing when I had a good one-to-one with her yesterday as such, is that this is a question that everyone else, when you trade, and I think I spoke to you about it yesterday, Matt, and I wonder what your views are now, is that when you put your stop in, and this is a thing that I'm very much aware of now, when do we move our stop down to break even, or do we ever? Say that again.
Never, unless you're about 500 ticks on side.
I mean, and this is the adage where you read so many people, and sometimes we're guilty of that when we say to people, "Move your stop to break even." And so many times, I think if I can get a chart up here, I think I used it when a trend day. Let's hope you can see that.
Even I make it up, though, you tend to, like, if you get aggressive buying or aggressive selling, like if any of you trade like supply and demand, like you always get a pullback to.
Well, I mean, if you can see the picture up here, I've got on the trend day, and we can see the D going up here, and the soybeans, and it goes up to what do we say, 84 here in the morning. But then the E comes all the way back down there. So in theory, if you're looking at your market profile, your stop's still 44.
Yeah.
You might have bought it at 60 or 62, and even though it's gone up to 84, like you said, you're 20 ticks on side. And a lot of people say, well, move your stop up to 60 because you don't want to lose any money. Well, you don't want to, because as you see here, as Matt just said, we've come all the way back down, sprung back down to where you were long. And then, because you've had the right trade, when E and S come in, and the S come all the way back up to 46.20, that is that is when you still want to be long. And then when you are long there, it's very simple. Where do you put your stop? Your stop's here, 46.90. It's clear as daylight. You're using the market profile here for your single print. That's when you move it up here. And by the way, then from 60, you're 60 ticks in the money. So when you've got you stop at 90 here, the S gone, the G, the A, and then the I. So when the J comes up here, you're thinking, okay, where should I put it? And you're up here somewhere. In theory, you might have taken 100 ticks off the table, but then where should you stop then? You stopped here. Because he moves it up to 90 to 22. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
If you
so
look
I
at the
mean,
quantity there, like I already got out, but it literally pulled back, like wicked into the entry and then went back
Yeah,
down again. If you had
and,
moved
and,
it,
and, and, and I think what we're going to try and teach people in the future is that a lot of people say move your stop to break even. You know, no one likes to move money, but you've already made that decision when you enter the trade. Is that you accept your stop?
Yeah.
But to me, by moving your stop to break even, yeah, you're thinking, oh, I've got a free trade, I can't lose anything. Well, you have, because you've lost your entry here, because all of a sudden you've had the right trade. The market's just come all the way down there for all of a sudden, but then it's gone again, sprung back, and it stopped you out. And you say, oh, okay,
Yeah.
you haven't lost any money, but no, but you have. You've lost the opportunity to be in at the on the right trade. You don't do
Yeah,
your research. You say, oh, okay, I haven't lost any
wasted
money.
time as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in theory, you rather lose money. I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same thing. I think I said to someone the other day. You know, obviously, it's the Grand National tomorrow. If you want to have a bet on the Grand National, I have God knows who's riding. I don't bet on horses that much. But once you put your £1 on over for red rum, you hand that £1 over. You don't turn around halfway around the race and say, "Oh, can I have half of it back, please?"
Yeah.
So in a way, for a lot of people, I hope that helps. That when do we put our stops in, and when do we move on to break even? A lot of times, as Matt says, we keep it in there because if we do have the right view, obviously on the fundamental news, and sometimes it's technical news. So many times I read people's journals where the market's come back to their entry and they've moved their stop up to their entry. They've been stopped out, and then it's gone the right way, which is in theory very frustrating thing to happen. Yeah. So in a way, that's if you can think about that as you want me to send you those slides over, ping me over an email, and we'll do it. Anyway, if I don't speak to you, have a great weekend, and we'll come back next week. The good news is that on Wednesday next week, those of you who have been with us before, Panis, who's an oil trader, is giving us a chat on oil spreads, obviously Brent and WTI, and I think the crack spread that goes on in oil. That will be on Wednesday at 7:30. But the good news is Bianca's finally succumbed, and she's going to do the morning Zoom meetings on Tuesday. Yeah.
Oh, very
Yeah, yeah. She's promised not to sing any songs. But anyway, I'll speak to you all next week. Have a
Have a
good
good weekend, Neil. Thank you,
And you.
mate.
Everyone, take care.